Hey everybody, it's me, Randy C, and welcome to Back in Time. This week is big for me. I'm heading off for a spinal cord surgery. Hulk Hogan had a similar one to this. So I shuffled through my archive of hundreds of interviews and I came across this one to help me out. He is the real power of positivity in the wrestling industry. It's February 4th, 2019, and Jason Agnew is sitting down with another WCW champion, the giver of self-high fives, and yoga extraordinaire Diamond Dallas Page. Jason welcomes Diamond Dallas Page to chat about his new book, The Art of Owning It. Plus they chat about his appearance in Cody's Corner at All In, as well as potential involvement with All Elite Wrestling. This is a great interview and especially helps me out with my adventures this week. So please sit down, grab a nice cold beverage, and enjoy. This is Back in Time.
4 letters, 1 word. Yeah!
Self-high five.
Welcome back to Sunday night's main event. A very familiar song in the background. It sounds like Nirvana, but it's not. You listening to the show know my next guest, Diamond Dallas Page, as a 3-time WCW champion, a WWE Hall of Famer, star of Ready to Rumble, stalker to The Undertaker's ex-wife. Okay, so his career had ups and downs. However, he's actually quite an incredible guy that has managed to parlay his wrestling fame into a whole yoga and personal betterment empire. Well, DDP's got a new book out, which gave me an ideal excuse to have him on the show to talk about the book. And then, much like Charlotte did the main event at WrestleMania, I decided to shoehorn some AEW questions into the interview. I mean, after all, he was in Cody's Corner at All In, and I've been talking about the need for AEW to have a couple familiar faces on their TV show. So, all I'm saying is I'm glad he wrote a new book. Now, this is actually Dallas's third book. In 2000, he released Positively Page, an autobiography. In 2005, Yoga for Regular Guys, the best damn workout on the planet. And on January 15th, 2019, just a couple weeks ago, he released Positively Unstoppable, The Art of Owning It. So I started the interview by asking him how this book differs from the other two.
This is more of a get your head on and own it. And what I mean by that is every person who I've ever worked with in my program, a lot of the transformations are mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. That like this guy, this disabled veteran could go from 5'6", 297 pounds, could not walk without the aids of his knee braces, back brace, and wraparound canes for 15 years. Like, how do you get that guy to have any hope at all? And once he sees what my program could do for so many people and that he could do it too, well, then I get him doing the program. And what I explain to him, as important as the DDPY workouts are, as important as the eating plan is, it's 10% of the equation. The 90% is between your ears. And that 6-inch piece of real estate, that story you tell yourself, that inner voice, like that's what this book is all about. This book is all about the art of owning it. And what is it? It's whatever you want it to be, but it's everything starts, begins, and wins or fails in your brain. Like your brain, everything is your own reality. And so many people have such negative self-talk. Like they put themselves down, they don't feel like they're worthy, they look at themselves in the mirror and they're disgusted. I mean, it's like people like a lot of things. The golden rule is treat people the way they want to be treated. No, because most people, I don't want to be anybody treat me like that because most people treat themselves like garbage. They put garbage food in their body. They don't take care of themselves. They talk down to themselves. Like, that's not how I treat myself. I want you to treat me the way I want to be treated, because it's all about that inner voice. And I not only give you different situations from my life, but they're major obstacles that were in my way, major adversities, major really down times in my life, and how I flipped them around. But not just me, so many other people that I work with that, again, when I'm working with someone one-on-one, it's easy for me to try to get them to understand it. Now, it takes a lot of work. So that doesn't mean they're actually going to do it, because it takes a lot of work. But I've never had a platform to say, read this book and you'll understand everything I'm talking about. Because it's got everything that I'm talking about in it.
Dallas, you do so many things for people, and you keep such a positive mindset in what you're doing, and especially, in the book as well. When you do happen to duck back in the world of wrestling, because you do pop back in here and there, what do you take out of, the performers' mindset that are out there now? Do you find it positive, or do you find a lot of these guys, being negative? Mindset.
I find a lot of them being positive. Mm-hmm. It's not like back in our day, we partied a lot. We drank a lot. There was a lot of pills done. There was a lot of, I wouldn't say drugs so much as prescription pills.
Right.
Because, that fake stuff hurts like hell. And there's times where you need painkillers because your body's beat up. And the bottom line is, these kids today, they can't take the painkillers. They can't do, because WWE, I'll use them as the example, they got a pretty strong wellness policy. Like, if you test for pills, if you don't have it, backed up from A to Z, that's going to be a strike one. But they don't want anybody on pills. And, there's a lot of preventative maintenance stuff that they can do, and that's where I come in. Like, I go down to the WWE Performance Center every 3 months and work with these kids that are down there. And a lot of them grew up watching me, so it makes it a little bit easier for them to listen to me, and because really Jericho was the first guy who was one of the boys who was from, he's much younger than me, but from my era of guys I worked with who actually did my program. And it mind-boggled him that everybody wasn't doing it right away, but they didn't see the dramatic results he did. So he told everybody about it, but a lot of old timers, they're not going to do it. Like Hulk Hogan, I begged to let me help him. He's had 8 back surgeries. Like, I don't know what I could do now. I still know I could help him a little bit. Right. Because once you start cutting your back up, not a good idea.
Mm-hmm. So, you mentioned working there with guys at the Performance Center. So, and you're in good standing with WWE. However, we did see you at All In as well in the corner of Cody Rhodes. How did that appearance come about? Who called who there?
Cody's been like a nephew to me. I've been Dusty. Without Dusty Rhodes, there is no Diamond Dallas Page, and we have a very close relationship. Let's put it like this: I was living in L.A. and I flew back for both of his state championships back when he was wrestling in high school.
Right.
We go way back, and Dusty, he would always tell Cody, if you can end up with 5 friends on one hand, if you can count, 5 fingers, if you got a friend for each one of those, he said, you've done something right. And he said, because that's it. He goes, I've got 5 friends. He used to tell me all the time. And he would always say, you're on that, you're one of those 5 to me. But when he passed, Cody had called me up and he said, I just want to let you know that before Dad left, and he said this before, but he wanted me to know that, you're lucky if you have 5 friends and stuff. You can really trust somebody who can, be there to help you. And he goes, Dallas has always been on that list. There are guys who have, Cody would say, there are some guys who are on the list and fell off the list. On the list and fell off the list.
Yep.
He said, but Dallas was always on that list. And when Cody was putting that together, he was kind of like honoring his dad, because Ray Lloyd was a guy that, that Dusty loved, and Tommy Dreamer, another one. So he wanted to have his 5 guys there, and I sort of transcend, both him and his old man. So it was great. I'm so proud of him. It's just Dusty would be doing cartwheels, but Dusty would also be entrenched and involved with everything that he's doing. But it's really interesting to watch how this is taken off. I actually brought Cody in for an interview last December. We filmed it right before he went to Japan. And just like, since leaving the WWE, what has it been like? And, he was lucky to get with the Young Bucks, who literally, were tearing up the independent scene. And those guys became brothers. And he told me all about that. We talked about it. And, All In was coming up, and they already committed to that. And we said, well, we'll come back a year from now, and we'll talk about and see where you're at. Now they've got their own company, and it's kind of a crazy ride. And people have said, oh, do you think you'll go to work for AEW? I said, no, I don't. He's doing his thing, I've got, what I'm doing, and I love what I do. I'm loyal to WWE because they've been really good to me the last 8 years. Like really good to me. So, if I show up for a show here and there, that's one thing. But, my loyalty is strong with WWE. So, I have no, but I'll do, if he needs any help doing anything, I'd be there to help him.
Dallas, one more question before we go, and I just want to pull you back into the world of wrestling here. Obviously, you were someone that was in the midst of the Monday Night War. You saw people go back and forth between WWE and WCW. So looking at what is happening with, your friend Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, AEW, what does this mean for talent right now that is out there in the industry?
It's awesome. It was a great time in WCW and WWE at the time because you could get what the most you could be worth, or because you could use it again. You have to have Coke and Pepsi to have competition, and
right.
Not that the AEW's competition in any way to WWE, not yet. I don't know if they ever will be, but when you've got companies like ROH, and then you've got a lot of other companies, I don't know all their names, but I know friends of mine who are, they're people who have companies that are on some kind of televised TV, are signing talent and giving them guaranteed contracts. You've got Impact. Off the top of your head, you got the Lucha Underground. Is that what that's called?
Yeah, Lucha Underground. I mean, right now people are escaping there, but I know what you mean. You got Impact, you got MLW, ROH, AEW is the new player, and of course WWE plus New Japan as well infiltrating into the American market. Yeah, so there are options out there now.
Yeah, it's like I heard that AJ Styles' contract was coming up. Someone said that. I saw it on Reddit somewhere. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine I can't imagine how, AJ would be like, popped, like, oh my, he'd be in the spot. He would be in the spot, that would, I'm sure WWE ain't going to let him go anywhere. And I'm sure they got plenty of money. They just signed a $1.2 billion contract. So I would imagine that any guy who's coming up for their deal the next year, and they're being used in the right way, I would imagine it's a great spot for them to be in. And I think it's great for the boys in general. And really, it'll be great for WWE all the way around because it'll make it when we were getting hot, in the Monday Night Wars, it made WWE better. It made Vince work harder. Out of it came things maybe they would never have done. So, I think that it's a great thing for the wrestling fan, and it's a great thing for the wrestlers.
Well, that's just a snippet of a full 25-minute interview with DDP, Diamond Dallas Page. If you want to hear more of this amazing interview, you can go to www.patreon.com/The Draw. And the full interview is up there in our archives. That's www.patreon.com/The Draw. It is episode 44 from February 4th, 2019. Thank you for joining me this week, and thank you all for those amazing DMs. I appreciate it, and thanks for thinking of me. And I'll be thinking of you. And go and take a listen to all of our amazing shows here on the Hub Sports Entertainment. We got the Smack Daddies with Brad the Dad and Father Feltham. Father Greg Feltham. He's angry. Cheer him up. Send him some DMs. Comment, like, and subscribe. We are found on all podcasting platforms. Just look up the Hub Sports Entertainment. So thank you again for joining this week in Back in Time. And don't worry, I'll have another episode next week. So take care and remember, live, and always laugh, right, Reese? And love wrestling.
Monkeys never claps.
No.
Deuces! Deuces!
How much does it bother you that they're yeeting right now?
Eat?
They're yeeting, yeah. Does that bother you?
What's it called? 4 letters, 1 word. Stop.